This is the Merienda Stories podcast.
We aim to offer a virtual table for people all over the world to share their stories. Because we believe that exchanging life experiences is one of the best ways to learn, grow, and enrich life.
We are just real people having real conversations about real life.
Over a nice merienda, why not? My name is Ana.
And I am Jesus.
And we are your hosts at Merienda Stories. Hey, welcome to episode 4, I believe.
Yay.
Correct? Yeah. So today our guest is Ping Mendoza. Thank you so much, Ping, for joining. Ping is a good friend we met many years ago. Right now, so now Ping is already a father of 2 kids. He is working with a VC that's investing in sustainable energy. He's also quite active in cryptocurrency, so I see a lot of posts from him. So this is why we're inviting him today. I feel like he's a person that I can learn a lot from, and hopefully you guys as well who are watching this can learn a lot from. So yeah, welcome to Merienda Stories, Ping.
Nice, thanks for having me, Ana and Jesus. Just excited to talk with what little I know. Maybe I'll learn as well through the conversation, and happy to be here.
Awesome.
Do you have any merienda, Ping?
Yes, I noticed your Merienda Stories title, and I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with chicharon. We like it here in the Philippines. It's either a snack or something you take with beer. It's very, I guess, widespread here. It's pretty much like toasted. I don't know if it's toasted really. You dry it on pans. It's like chicken. It's usually pork skin and some of the meat. So it's very famous here.
Yeah, you
We have it also.
Go ahead.
We have it also in Spain. It's called I think we just call it cortezas, but yeah, we also have that. Yes. And you are having a beer with it?
Of course, it's 10 p.m. over here, so
yeah.
Cheers.
It's really funny because it's 10 p.m. there, so you are more like in dinner mode, but here it's like 3 p.m., so more like coffee time. So we are drinking coffee, right?
Yeah, well, Jesus is drinking coffee, but I'm actually drinking this thing from Spain also. It's called ricore. So what is it, Jesus? Can you explain?
This is a mixture of coffee. It's 40% coffee and 60% a cereal called chicory.
Yeah.
I don't know the name chicory if it's the same in English, but it's like a cereal and 40% coffee for those who doesn't want to drink only 100% coffee. So I have it all the time in Spain, and we have to import it because there is no such a thing in Germany. And to accompany the coffee, we also have some dark chocolate with almonds, which I just got from Spain. My sister sent it to me. This is my favorite brand, Valor. You can also do hot chocolate with it, but also like that is super cool. So this is our merienda today.
Yay.
Sounds good. Cheers to you then.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, can't wait to have a Filipino beer at some point soon.
Nice.
Good. So let's start a little bit about general approach. So I think we were interested a little bit about your general perspective, Ping, about earning, saving, investing, spending. So basically, like, what principles do you follow, or what are your general guidelines in the way that you do those things?
Sure. And I think just to frame that topic, like you mentioned, I have 2 kids, right? So it's fairly young family. So you'd expect a lot of spending towards the family, the household. So I think what I learned early, especially in school where we went to in business school, there's like 3 views on money, right? So you have your income statement, you have your balance sheet, and you have cash flow. So I think of it that it's very much applicable to your household finances as well, right?
Yeah.
Because your income statement is essentially like how much you make, your revenue, and how much you spend for a period. So I typically, I actually have this like Google spreadsheet where I have like a 5-year view on like what I expect to do with our family's budget. So like every month, how much is the rent, how much is what I'm amortizing. So it's all there in the spreadsheet. And if I feel like I can convince my wife I can buy a nice car, I put it in like year X, and then like, hey, I want to buy a car by then. But so that's sort of like my income statement view. So your job or your business allows you to make the money that then you spend for the things that are valuable, right? But then I also think about in terms of balance sheet, you want to accumulate things that are of value. So you need assets, not only to protect yourself in the long run, but that's essentially the definition of wealth, right? It gives you optionality if you have enough assets, either for a rainy day or at least for whatever purpose you deem fit.
Yeah.
And then lastly, cash flow. You want to be liquid because what use is an asset if it's not something you can easily tap? And I guess that's in a nutshell how I view it.
Wow, have you always been like that? Like that's really a very conscious way of thinking about it. I feel like people more or less think about parts, portions of that, but I feel like you're the first person who I heard actually, articulate it that way. Yeah, which is really impressive. I think it's really cool. I mean, I think that makes sense.
Well, to that point, I wasn't always like this, especially like early in my career.
Yeah.
When you first get your taste of a job, you make some money. Well, of course, being a father, you kind of get changed, I guess, when you kind of have to take care of like kids. And also, I think it sort of like started when when you're starting to make enough money that it mattered, right? Because I mean, early in your career, you're typically just enjoying because it's first time to like have some money, but it's not exactly. I mean, you can take the risks, right? But as you progress through your career, you kind of have to be more, I guess, deliberate.
Yeah, I guess that's the point where you have already some money saved in the bank, and you say, "Where this money is there, and it's doing nothing. So what can I do with this?"
Yeah, exactly. Good. So how did you get into like a cryptocurrency? I think we wanted to first understand basics, like how does it work? Like basic description of that. How did you get started into it? Yeah, maybe let's start there.
Sure. I think it starts in 2017 when through the normal course of my like work, I often need to research and like do a lot of I guess industry in knowledge work. I don't know if we mentioned that currently I'm with a fund manager, so heavy on the research side. I'm not particularly a finance background, so I'm not exactly sort of a money manager. I'm actually a marketing business dev type of guy. So in 2017, it was just a point of like, okay, how do I make more money? Like my kid was growing up, I'm starting to feel the pinch of like paying for tuition and needing to like plan ahead, right? And then back then I was working for one of the larger conglomerates here in the Philippines. It was a very secure, stable job, but you don't exactly like grow sort of like really fast in terms of income too, right? You feel safe, but there isn't much upside year on year, right? And then there was this crazy thing in the news. I was just every day reading Bloomberg back before they would charge you to read their website. Bitcoin was like increasing price like X times per week, and it's like, what is this thing? I don't know where to begin, right? I mean, I don't know what it is, why it's doing it, and is it is it a scam? Is it it's a very complex thing, as I figured out later on. But I didn't buy then. It was just a curiosity, and I remember like tweeting or like posting online that whenever it's in the news, it's too late.
Exactly.
So I didn't buy. And then after a few months, it just crashed, right? It's like from $20,000 down to like 6 and then 3. That was pretty much the start.
Okay, so you went in at a good time, actually.
Well, I actually just started going into it sometime in 2019. This was right after my second kid was born. So even more urgency to make money, right? I was like, oh, what am I gonna do?
Oh my God.
So I better try this Bitcoin thing because it went to 20,000 before. Maybe it will. At that time, it was like 6,000 US, right? And then, of course, I didn't know enough. A few weeks later, the price would it's very volatile. It goes up and down,
Right.
Yeah, it's
crazy
crazy.
swings.
Yeah.
I didn't know enough. I ended up selling like at a very small profit, right? I don't know this thing. It didn't feel right when, you're too worried about something because I didn't know enough, right? So sold early in 2019 and like boom, that was sort of like the end of my actual holding Bitcoin then. But then in 2020, in February, when I started this current role, one, I had a little bit more money, and two, I just needed to deep dive on like more financial things because I mean that was my job. I bought some Bitcoin. I was thinking, okay, now this is starting to be real because it's starting to go back again. I read some books, and then COVID happened. Like in the week of COVID, that was sort of like my second week of buying some Bitcoin again, and then the price just crashed,
Yeah,
like
totally.
half in a day.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, do I know this enough? Do I have enough conviction? Yes. So I doubled down and bought some more right there
Awesome.
and kept buying up. And now we're in 2021.
Awesome.
Jesus.
I am also a little bit into investment and stuff, and I can only confirm everything that you said, that when you are learning, volatility can drive
Freaks
you a
you
little
out.
bit crazy.
Yeah.
So you tend to make some mistakes, but this is always a learning process. And yeah, so looks like you learn well, Ping.
I guess I'll probably add that a few years ago, I was playing a lot of poker as well. So maybe that sort of like helped shape my view on money, that there's really less need to worry about it if you kind of know what you're doing. Like you're not gonna win every hand, but if you know that you're playing the right way and like you know something, you're in the long run gonna be ahead. That probably shaped a little bit of like how I view it. But to your point, Anna, sort of like where I started, it wasn't like, okay, I'll start Bitcoin. Okay, now I'm doing Bitcoin. It's really a learning process. And with so much information in the internet, it's just typically hard for people to get started.
Right.
You can go to YouTube, you can go to Twitter, and like we'll probably get more into that later on.
You said something before, being that when it's in the news, it's already too late. I totally agree on that. When it's in the news, the people who have influence have already bought, and that's why the price is going up. But we are kind of experiencing something different in this time, right? Because the cryptocurrencies are going up without end. Currently, now November 2021 sounds like a bad time to buy because it has already multiplied by 4 in 1 year. So it's like a sign like, is it really a good moment, or shall I wait that it corrects? And there are also, I don't know, stocks like Tesla, I don't know, Nvidia also, that they have multiplied like crazy in the last 2 years. And when you thought it was already too expensive and it was going to crash, they multiplied again by 2 or 3. So how do you see this phenomenon? Do you think it's going to stay in the long term, or do you think all these stocks or cryptocurrency could crash in the next month, couple of years?
I think that's a great question, and I think that frames where we are in all markets. So when I first bought that Bitcoin back in 2020, I needed to sort of understand what I'm buying, right? And typically people would define Bitcoin. It was first just Bitcoin, right? We'll probably part the whole category crypto later on, but so many define it as a decentralized digital money. So if you break that down, it's decentralized, meaning there's no single point of failure. It's maintained by a network of like so many computers globally so that when at least, one of them survives, the network survives, right? So, and then it's digital because it's native to the internet. It has no physical aspect except for the underlying infrastructure that maintains it, the miners, like, we won't go into detail for that, but it's money. And I think that's, to your question, Jesus, what got me really hooked into it, the question of what is money. And a lot of the things I read, I'll share some of the excerpts later on, but it appears that the way I thought money was, it's either dollars or like pesos over here. It's something used to exchange for something, right?
Oh.
But apparently, since 1971, the money that we use isn't backed by anything. It's just the paper that the government says has value. And I found out that, in history, people typically used gold as that sort of like real store of value, which is just hard to use on a daily transaction, which ended up being a paper-based monetary system, which we all have now. And when I deep dove into resources like realvision.com and some of the Twitter accounts that I follow, they discuss this in detail. But it was this book, The Bitcoin Standard, that sort of frames that in a more sort of historical context. And it seems like, especially because of COVID, but it actually started in 2008, that financial crisis we had back then, where government accelerated the increase in production of money. So when you ask that, Tesla stock is going up, in fact, most stocks are, real estate is going up, everything is going up, just in dollar terms. But if the dollar is also going up in volume, is the purchasing power, going up or down? I think that's what led me into Bitcoin, which, because of its finite supply, people expect it to be that hedge or like that way for you to store your purchasing power. So maybe that's a good place to pause.
But it's true that I think that's why people hesitate, because they don't understand, like, comparing it to like money, and this is what we've always been using, what we believe is the best store of our value. But we don't realize that actually it started the same way that Bitcoin is viewed today. It's a representation of something. So it's essentially the same thing, except that money as it is, so dollars or euros, pesos, whatever, have been there way longer. So it's become kind of more widely accepted, right? But so I think, it's really something. That's why we want to have these kinds of conversations. It's just casual, but trying to really understand it and make it more accessible and make it more, easy to understand for people.
Ping, you have talked about gold. Do you think cryptocurrencies are replacing gold as value vaults, or do you think it's just another alternative to gold?
I think in the short term, it's just another alternative. Like, for example, when the internet started, pencils actually increased in volume, right? I mean, the human race manufactured more pencils when the internet started. So, you could write online, but that's just like a metaphor I use. When
I love that example.
But I mean, in the long run, like, a long time from like, civilizational time horizon, I think it should, simply because, one, ask any young person now, do they even want gold? Like, I mean, we as society think gold is valuable, but as we move towards the internet, I mean, we're sharing this piece of reality through Zoom, and like, this is life now. A lot of our waking hours will move to the internet. There's a need for something that works well with that, I guess, digital society that we're leading to. Now, cryptocurrencies in general as a store of value, I'm sure some of them will fail. But Bitcoin itself, given its decentralized nature, no one even knows who actually started the thing.
Right.
There's just no single point of failure. It's gonna be there even much longer than anyone expects, just because it's unstoppable.
How do you like compare actually the different coins, and how do you what makes it, or what's your criteria in general? How would you differentiate the different ones that are available?
Sure, and there's like a lot, right?
Yeah.
So I started with Bitcoin because that whole money printing thing, and like I said earlier, like there's a balance sheet view and there's an income statement view. I knew that Bitcoin was sort of like an asset that I guess in previous generations, or like in our parents' time, it was land. You wanted to buy a piece of land because that's something you can give to your kids. I was thinking of my kids, so Bitcoin was like, okay, that's as long as you know the password, you can get this thing, right? That was my view of Bitcoin. So I have some Bitcoin that's like reserved for like severe emergencies or like family wealth. And then, of course, being human, I also was sort of like want to take a step on a riskier view where other cryptos could be. Because let's say, yeah, Bitcoin's fine and all, but if something can outperform it, then maybe I get some way to either buy more Bitcoin or just get more returns. So it's, I guess it's a question of like risk. How much more risk do you want? And from my view, I have I have 3 buckets. I have my hodl, or like your forever hold position, and then I have sort of like a swing bucket where it's on an app that earns interest and easy enough to move around. And I rarely do. It's mainly Bitcoin, Ethereum, and like the blue chips, I guess. And then I have like a very, very small part of my portfolio that's more for trading opportunistically. If let's say I catch a certain, I observe some hype on Twitter or like some of the communities I'm part of. So I put a little bit there. They tend to be very volatile and crazy, but you expect more with more risk, right?
Interesting. So is that equally split, like 30-30-30?
No.
No. How do you
At some point it did, just because these smaller ones really run pretty fast.
Yeah.
But what I try to do is like skim the top and then put it to the the longer term holds.
Yeah, cool.
Just to de-risk. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking because like I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, let's put it out there. So I mean, I just bought gold, actually, stock for gold like 2 months ago, and I'm not sure if it was the right move or not, but I did that. I'm watching it drop now, but let's see. And then we've been talking also like a lot about, you talked about land, for example, and I think I think I don't have the clarity yet, or the strong conviction enough to stick to one strategy. So I think what's happening to me, this is why I was asking, is it 30-30-30, or how are you kind of making your decisions? Because I feel like I don't have that strong of a conviction, so my strategy is pretty random, and I'm just kind of putting a little bit in each, and I really don't know where to go next. And you talked a little bit about land. This is also a question that we have, like, is real estate, it's something that also makes you feel secure. But so far, most of my savings are in some sort of investments in stocks, different levels of risk also. But yeah, so I was just wondering what your general perspective is. And you also talked earlier about like, you look at it as a balance sheet and you kind of really assess your assets and all of that. So maybe let's take it further than crypto. Like, how do you look at crypto within your total, portfolio of assets?
Frankly, since COVID happened, I've actually moved like significantly huge, almost all of my liquid net worth in crypto. Because one, I used to have like this, it's quite popular here in the Philippines, insurance-backed investments where every month you put in, it's like a unit trust. And they say, oh, if you earn like 8% on your stock portfolio every year, then you have a retirement account. What I did was, at that point, remember it was COVID and it was crazy time. I wanted to de-risk. I didn't want to sort of rely on an intermediary or like that insurance firm. I don't even know if they're going to be alive 50 years from now. So what I did was, okay, I know I can hold my Bitcoin, and like as long as there's an internet connection, I can access it. I felt less at risk actually by doing Bitcoin. So I moved everything there. But to sort of like answer the portfolio view, of course, I have some holdings in real estate on a practical view because I have kids. I want to build a house, sort of like a place to root the family. And then just some practical stuff like, car is not even an asset, but yeah, so it's pretty much all in liquid, like part wise in crypto.
Yeah.
And it's within crypto that I sort of like change it up, right? Because I have the least risky, which is Bitcoin. Then there's some, I would even call them bets on other cryptos, right? With the view that if they work, then I can buy more Bitcoin.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, so you really see that as the core. Interesting. It's really about that's what I'm missing in my own way of thinking. I think just to find this strategy and kind of stick to it and have strong enough convictions to actually believe in that and go that way. So
and I think you use the right word, like conviction, just because I mean there's this saying in the Bitcoin community or like Twitter in general for crypto, DYOR, right? Or do your own research. Because when you have a portfolio of investments, it's the stuff that you don't really know. Like I did back in the first time I did Bitcoin and I didn't know enough. That actually makes you sell too early or like not hold it to then realize the returns that you were hoping for. So when you know about it enough and not only research but also knowing how you are with your investments, that's then you build conviction, and that's when you can say, okay, that's what I'm going to do, right? It's not exactly about the asset, but it's more of how you are thinking about it, and then like
exactly
how you're gonna,
because you trust what you are doing and you have bought, and you don't, and it doesn't matter if it goes 30 or 50% because it's volatility, and actually in that case you are almost not really glad, but you take probably opportunity to buy more if you have some liquidity available, and because you trust it, you are not going to sell with losses, but you are going to be patient, and you are going to buy, and you're going to keep it for years, and at the end you will get hopefully a great return. So yeah, exactly. I totally agree with that.
Risk reward.
So for people who don't know anything about it or have just heard about this term, so guys, we're not going into the basics of it, so maybe you can search other videos that talk about basics of cryptocurrency, blockchain, just Google those terms. But maybe some advice from you, Ping. How would you recommend somebody to start? Like books, I think you mentioned already some books, I don't know, people that you follow or videos that you would recommend to watch, channels to subscribe to.
Happy to. So there's this YouTube channel, and he's also quite active on Twitter, Anthony Pompliano, or Pomp, Pomp. He has a daily sort of like business show on YouTube. His Twitter is quite active, but what I like about him is he translates sort of like a lot of the complexity into like simpler language. So I think that's a good person to like look up. And then, like I said, Bitcoin Standard by Saifuddin Ammous, that's quite foundational in that what is money question. So that's sort of like how I got into, the gold standard, why it worked for like, long time ago, and what happened since 1971. And I think you've seen some of my posts on Instagram of some of those charts, amazing things that, 1971 was like, apparently some pivotal moment in history, and everything just went pretty bad after that, supposedly. And then you could also check out, there's this very interesting character. His name is Michael Saylor. He's the CEO of Microstrategy, which is basically the first publicly listed company in the US that bought Bitcoin and put it in their corporate balance sheet. And he's like one of the clearest people to articulate, although to be frank, he's quite all in on Bitcoin, right? So take it as it is. But he's very well able to communicate on a first principles analysis, engineering background, and not really hype. So I hope that helps.
Cool. No, that's a lot. That's great.
Sounds great. And do you have any sources to pick up crypto? Like you will say, okay, these two cryptos are probably the next ones I want to invest on.
Great question. I think especially for beginners, there are some apps that are more regulated. So I suggest for them to start there. Like for example, here in the Philippines, we have the central bank actually regulates some apps like coins.ph that allows them to get exposure to some crypto. But for the sort of like next cryptos that may be worth their attention, I would suggest people to look what they're interested in because there's so many. Um, so different cryptos are trying to do different, use cases, and it kind of needs you to be aligned with what they're trying to do, right? Because then you don't really know what you're looking into. So I see things in the energy space. There's some that more on like NFTs or like art, digital art is a big thing now. So yeah, I think it also comes down to like you as an investor, what are you particularly interested in? And Twitter, for all its failings and beauty, it's really where a lot of stuff is picked up on. So
Payne, what's an NFT?
great question, and we'll probably run out of time, but technically it's a way to make scarcity happen in the internet.
Yeah.
So by definition,
like
it's non-fungible, so you can't move it around so easily. So let's say we take a recording of this video. It's easy to right click and copy paste, right? But the NFT, what it allows is it's attached to a token, which verifies that that's the original copy.
And so that there's an owner specifically determined for it.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, crazy. Yeah, I've been reading a lot about these NFTs related to like celebrities and all of that. I think it's very interesting social, something to look into socially as well. But as you said earlier, these things are evolving because society is evolving, and what we value, what we value as humans is changing. So this is why all of these things are popping up, right? Because all of these are representation of value. And it's interesting to follow it because it also kind of gives you an insight into humanity and what's happening to our society today. So yeah, really interesting.
Absolutely. Ping.
I think sorry, go ahead.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I was just gonna add some emphasis there because what Anna said reminded me of like something I picked up on when I was playing poker. That it's a question, right? What do you want to do? Do you want to make money or be right? So sometimes when you're investing, it's hard to like let go of the things that you're really right about. But at the end of the day, if it's an investment or it's something about money, the goal is to just make more money, right? And crypto is a very complicated thing. And it's actually some of those who have tightly held beliefs that find it hard to like really get into it. So like what you said, Anna, society itself is changing. Like I see my kids, they're attending classes on an iPad. That's gonna change some things 20 years from now, right?
Right, for sure. Yeah, crazy how it's gonna. Yeah, it's scary but exciting. I don't know.
You just said, Ping, that cryptocurrencies are very complex, and I totally believe that. But I can imagine many people who have made a lot of money in the last 1 or 2 years with cryptocurrency probably think that it's very easy and that they are gonna be making money forever and tripling their money every year. What would you say to those people?
Well, firstly, congrats.
Exactly.
You made a lot of money.
Absolutely.
But I guess for anyone watching this, I guess it is risk, right? Not only because it's an investment, but it's also we don't really know what's going to happen. That's the core of investing. You don't know what's going to happen. It's a bet that if your bet works out, then you get the rewards, right? You took the risk and then you get compensated for it. I would say that for those who made a lot of money and know what they're doing, they're probably not. It's not worthwhile for them to hear what I'm gonna say. But for those who sort of like locked into it, I mean, some of my friends ask me this also because some of them who follow me on Instagram or like Facebook, some of them even say thanks. Now they're not sure because we're in the time of the market where heading into the end of the year. People say, oh, maybe next year it's going to crash again, 4-year cycles. I mean, it comes down to like what's valuable to you, right? I mean, the point is not to have as many Bitcoin unless that's what you want. Like I know I'm doing this because I want to build a house. I want to have a nice car. I mean, there's like some things that are specifically in my spreadsheet, in my Google Sheets of like family planning that I need to tick off, right? Bitcoin, as money should be, is a way for you to make it, right? So I hope that helps.
Yeah.
And you are working in the renewable energy sector. Not only for that sector, but how do you think that crypto impacts on other sectors?
Good question. And since like a few months ago, that was a big issue, right? They're saying that, Bitcoin is bad for the environment because like uses so much energy. The way I think about it is Bitcoin is actually quite efficient in the sense that you directly use the electricity into money.
Right.
And so many things that we do need energy, whether it's human energy or like machine or like fuel, that don't really produce value for society. So that's sort of like that clears my thinking of like for crypto or Bitcoin at least. But its impact though is gonna be so profound. I'm not sure we are able to anticipate it well because everything's happening so fast. And it's not just crypto that's moving so fast. We have, like I know little about it, artificial intelligence. I'm taking up a data science course right now.
Oh wow.
It's quite profound how machines can be adept at learning on their own. That's going to change many things. And of course, electric vehicles, and then genetics even. There's so many things that are going to change how society sort of like behaves. And crypto is just one layer of that. I think that's sort of like the money layer. We're going to change sort of like the energy layer. And there's sort of like a centralized going into a decentralized layer where, like, for example, in my field, decentralized meaning you're seeing rooftop solar panels on houses now instead of like one large power plant in some far-flung area, right? We're going to see that in like technology or sorry, in food, 3D printing. There's just so many things happening and they're building on top of each other. And it's going to be an exciting but, volatile, right?
Absolutely.
Why did you decide to study data science? Because it sounds like you're anticipating what's going to happen in the future, and we can't. While we can't anticipate it, there are certain steps that you probably want to take to be able to kind of be prepared and keep up to date. So I'm wondering if that's related to that, or why did you decide to take a course on that?
That's that was my contemplation. And there's so many things that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And data science sort of like allows you to, one, of course, interpret data, but also two, tell the story about it. I mean, it's one thing to have data and then like, make an analysis, but then to effectively communicate it and then have people, make, I guess, smarter decisions.
Yeah.
That's going to be valuable, I guess, I hope.
Super cool. Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. Interesting. So you're doing like a program in it, or what is it?
So there's I'm sure you're familiar with the Asian Institute of Management, right? AIM.
Yeah.
So they have this master in data science. I actually took a leave because I couldn't juggle work with it, but I finished my first term. Hopefully I get back next term to like finish. I have like 3 more terms to go into it, but they give me 5 years to finish it anyway.
Right, yeah,
but we'll see. I mean, the moonshot is if Bitcoin or like crypto goes up so much, I can like take a sabbatical and just finish my my course. Yeah,
that would be cool. Yeah, and who knows what value that will bring you anyway, right? As well. So, yeah.
Imagine Bitcoin goes to $1 million. We could go to $1 million. Why not?
Probably not gonna happen next year, but maybe. I hope
not
so.
Next year, but in 20 years, why not? I mean,
Yeah.
I could see that happening.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Give it enough time, I think. Give it enough time.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
my worry is it may be $1 million, but what are you gonna be able to buy with that $1 million?
By then.
Well, probably more than with the $1,000 that you bought crypto initially.
Fair enough. That's right.
Yeah. Because where else would you have put the 1,000? Yeah. True. Yeah. Good. So I think maybe we can close with like general advice for people.
Sure. And again, this is not financial advice, right? I'm in no way in a position to tell you what's good for your money, but I think more than anything, that it's the process of learning that's valuable here. Because like we said earlier, and Jesus, I think, articulated that well, that when you don't know it enough, it's the volatility that sort of kills you, right? Whether you sell too early or like, I know I'm too exposed when I can't sleep at night, or like I kept checking the prices. That's not healthy.
Right.
Maybe the second piece there.
I know also
Right?
because of him.
So maybe sometimes take a step back. I mean, 5 minutes will probably not change your life, right? When it comes to money. I guess the second part is, I guess the learning part is more of a discovery process rather than sort of like linear, or I mean, we're so used to school that you start a SEM, you end it with like completing certain requirements, right? I think right now the best way to go about it is more of like iteratively. Okay, you learn, you're for sure gonna make some mistake, but then you pick the path that's next, rather than a linear view, right?
Yeah.
And that applies not only to crypto, but so many things that's changing the world, right?
Yeah. And that you accept that failure is just kind of an essential part of it. Yeah.
I mean, for sure.
Go ahead.
For sure, try to learn from the mistakes that others already did so that you don't make the same mistakes, but you always have to do your own mistakes. That's for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. And the third part, and just to sort of wrap that up, is it's a question of like three things for me. What's your risk preference? What's your time preference? And what's your liquidity preference? I got this from this ex-hedge fund guy who runs realvision.com. You can go to their website. They have a whole crypto section that's free, free membership, and there's a lot of videos there. But just to highlight that risk, time, and liquidity preference. So how much risk are you willing to take, right? In terms of like how much you're putting in and how you're able to sort of withstand the volatility. That's your risk preference. Time preference is how long is this thing for you, right? Is it a next month thing, a 5-year thing, or like 20-year thing? And then the last part, liquidity. When something doesn't go your way, how fast do you need to like exit? What's your exit plan, right? And it's around those three questions before I click to buy something.
Wow.
Guides it.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And do you follow-up question? Do you have like who do you talk to about these things? Like, do you have a because I read a lot, I watch videos and all of that, but when I'm still, like I said, it's about conviction, which probably I'm missing. But when I'm about to make a decision, it's still very difficult for me compared to like other decisions, like, I don't know, taking a new job or choosing an apartment, where I can talk to my friends, I talk to my family. I'm just wondering, like, who do you normally go to be able to process these, or is it something that you feel confident about on your own?
I think that was a challenge earlier on, like early 2020. It's very, very difficult to find people to talk about this particularly.
Yeah.
So I guess that was also why I started posting online, like my stories. It also was a way for me to crystallize what I know, and the offshoot was some of my friends would give me feedback, right? And it's through their questions that I actually started to learn even more. So like I said earlier, it's not a linear thing. You just kind of feel your way through so many points and see what you can get and piece it together for your own, I guess, view. Twitter has been very helpful because I guess for some reason the crowd or the hive is able to like, what would be the word? I mean,
like support each other and like, yeah.
It's not support. It's like the cream rises to the top. Like some of the nonsense is there, but for some reason, the more you tweet about it, the more you apply your interest into like the systems around us. Of course, the algorithms just suggest things for you, right?
Yeah.
And you just kind of have to be more critical in what you get value
Consume.
from. Right, exactly. Be purposeful and like why something is resonating with you.
Yeah. Super cool. I think I'm really learning a lot because I feel like these topics, you're right, the more you talk about it, the more you reach out, it also helps you, it helps others, and basically you're just like making yourself like putting yourself into a situation where you have the opportunity to learn, so you're grabbing that opportunity. And I really love what you said about you just need to know what you believe in and like create your own convictions and make your own like kind of decisions, and this will help kind of guide that. So really cool. And this is why we wanted to have that kind of conversation, because we are looking for people to talk about these things with.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a really interesting talk, Ping. Thank you very much for spending this time with us. And we also hope that our listeners will love it as much as we did to spend this time with you.
I hope so too. And thanks for having me. So it's good to meet you. And Anna, it's been a while, but thank you again for reaching out and like spending time. It's been great.
Totally. Thanks for letting us pick your brain.
I have a beer, so that's good time spent.
Cheers.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
And thank you very much.
Thanks for Merienda.
Thank you for joining us at Merienda Stories.
Tune in next time for more stories. Real people having real conversations about real life.
Over a nice merienda. Gracias.
Maraming salamat.